Good morning, beautiful people. Today is going to be our first official day of planting stuff out in the garden. You were with me the other day when I got some potatoes in the ground, but I feel like that doesn't count as planting because they're just potato form, they're not plants. So we're going to be getting okra in the ground, planting out some mint, and taking a look at one of the garden beds in the salad garden area. In and out of the greenhouse, hardening off for the last 3 or 4 days. They're looking good. It's always a little nerve-wracking for me to plant them out because you have babied them for the last however many weeks, and now you're putting them out in nature and they're just at the elements' whims, so it's a bit nerve-wracking. But everything looks good so far. In my chipmunk hunting video, I said that all of my peanuts got eaten, but it turns out I have about 5 or 6 that have survived, so we're gonna find a place to shove the peanuts also. I have to kind of reconsider my garden layout because I had adjusted for not having peanuts, so hopefully I can find a spot for them. I'm sure I can. There's 56 acres. We'll find somewhere to put some peanuts. But what am I looking for? I'm going to plant out these 6 little okra plants. And these mints. So don't ask me how, but we did have a delicious mint for several years. Ended up planting it in a garden bed and it didn't make it through the winter, which is bizarre because we all know mint is extremely hardy and pervasive. So somehow we managed to kill mint. Oh, really? But it leaks a lot at that junction. Oh, watch the mint. Watch the mint.
The back of the house? The Y junction?
Yes. So I turned it back off there. Mint is the best smell. I don't have to tell you guys that, but it still blows my mind away. We got two kind of like the classic, in our opinions, my mother and I's. The two classic type of mint would be spearmint and peppermint. Let me just double check before I put my foot in my mouth. Yes. So for Mother's Day, I replaced the mint that had died in this bed, unfortunately, with both a spearmint and a peppermint. Very, if you're not an avid mint connoisseur, we find them very different. So we wanted both. Oh my goodness, that's root bound and ready to go in the ground. I'm gonna break this up a bit. Oh my gosh. Okay. Just gonna open it up a bit because that is tight. There you go, little mint. Tuck you in. I love planting. Yeah. Sorry. Sometimes I forget that that's maybe a weird giggle. That's okay. We're all friends here, and planting is exciting. I'm going to make sure I keep the labels with the plants because I cannot tell them apart. Peppermint is not as root bound, but we're going to open it up a bit anyway. And tuck it in there. Oh, it smells so good. It smells like spring, to be honest. And fresh. Love me a mojito, so I'm excited to have some mint options again. Tucked in. Planted. Oh, tag. Don't forget the tag. For future documentation's sake, the mint plant on the right is spearmint. The mint plant on the left is peppermint. So if these tags go missing, I can refer back to this video. I lost the spout like years ago for this watering can, and I needed something to water starts or something that was a little easier than just like a direct water stream. So this was my solution. This is a water bottle duct taped to the watering can, and I heated a nail and stabbed the water bottle a bunch. It works really well, actually, so waste not. I didn't have to go and buy anything, and I am reusing a water bottle. Mint has been planted in and watered in, and it is conveniently located to this massive comfrey plant, so I'm actually going to slice up some of these leaves and put them in there as a mulch. Nothing else is going in this bed other than mint, so I can safely mulch everything around these plants without having to worry about starts or direct sowed seeds coming up. And plus this concert plant is getting real big, so. This is where our okra is going. Mom just made a bit of a bunny barrier for me. We have our bush bean provider variety started here. Some of them have been eaten a bit, but it looks like they're gonna be making a comeback. Maybe not this guy. I have more bush beans started in the greenhouse to come in and fill in the gaps, so I will do that. I always like to start backups in the greenhouse of whatever I direct sow in case of pests get out and disturb my direct sow. This is actually the first year that I direct sowed my beans at all instead of just starting them in the greenhouse. It takes up a lot of space to start your beans in the greenhouse, and while it does get them a head start, I wanted to see what direct sowing them would do. It lightened the load of seed starting this year, which was really nice, and they've all germinated fairly well, so I still have my backups. I'll fill in the holes. But in the back area of this garden bed, the last about 1.5 feet, I'll be planting these okras. Okra is something I've tried to direct sow in the past, and it got demolished by slugs. I'm not sure what it is, or if it was just the garden bed or what, but that's why I started them in cells this year. And hopefully this fence will deter any bunnies or anything. Oh, whoops. Any bunnies or anything that might come and try and take my okra babies, because I'm really excited about okra. I've never grown it to a harvest state before, so I'm hoping that this is the year I'll get an okra harvest. Okra is definitely from the south, as we all know, and I was introduced to it through southern YouTubers, actually, which is funny. Didn't even know it existed. Being from the south, as you would imagine, it does like a lot of heat. And while I don't have a long season because I live in the mountains, it is a very hot season. We go from winter to summer real quick, and we'll hover around 35 to 40 degrees Celsius frequently in the summertime. So I'm hoping that that's hot enough for okra to produce. I have 120 frost-free days, so maybe I'll get some off of the plants, but I hope so. It's just a new thing I've never tried, so it's exciting. I don't know how much space they need. That's good. I know it's not very gardener-like of me, but I hate dry, dirty, dusty hands. If the soil is wet, it's fine. It's just that dusty dryness that just gets me. All right, our okra is planted. I'm really excited. I'm super excited to be planting plants out. This time of year is always a mix of excitement and dread for me because I'm terrified that something is just gonna come and eat these all, especially because I start so much of my stuff indoors long before the last frost, and I have to baby them and up pot them and care for them, and you know, it's a bit stressful, but fingers crossed. Transplanted in and watered in. We'll keep checking on these guys. They stay in the shade for quite a bit of the morning, but this whole bed will get sun from about 11 o'clock onward, so yay! Hopefully they're tall enough that they'll get enough sun, even though the bush beans are in front of them. I'm sure okra grows taller than bush beans. Right, the next thing we are planting are some determinate tomatoes and tomatillos in this front garden bed here. I was doing some math, and I'm a very visual person, so my mother brought me out a piece of paper so I could draw what I was doing, which is very helpful for me. Hopefully you guys can see this. This is the plan. Our beds are about 5 feet wide, 11 feet long. I need 8 sections in order to get all of the squash and tomatoes I have. I have 4 different varieties of summer squash that I'm putting in this bed. I have a Bennington green tint patty pan, which is a light green patty pan, and then I have a dark green total eclipse patty pan, a light green cue ball squash, which is a zucchini that's essentially just round, as well as a classic zucchini, the Black Beauty variety. Each plant variety, I have 2 plants, so there is 8 different summer squash in total that have to go in this bed. I'm trying to mitigate the cross-pollination that is inevitably going to happen for a 5 by 11 garden bed that has 4 different varieties of summer squash. They can all cross-pollinate. I'm sure it's going to happen. But to hopefully help mitigate that, I am putting a squash variety on either end of the garden bed, and then tomatoes, another squash variety, tomatoes, another squash variety. To go to all of this extent? No. But is this half of the fun of planting a garden? For me, yes. So, for the tomato varieties, I am actually doing an indeterminate cherry tomato on this end. This is the yellow Eaglehart, and I'm doing another indeterminate cherry tomato. I believe it's called Gardener's Delight. It's kind of just a classic red cherry tomato. I'm putting them together because they're the odd tomato varieties out, and they're going to need a bit more trellising of sorts. So they're going to be on this side where I can potentially bulk their trellises up together. On this side, like I said, it's going to be a squash. Look at that volunteer or overwintered leek. It's looking good. I gotta harvest it though, because I think it's going to sprout soon. Another space here for squash, and then we come into the 4 Glacier determinate tomato varieties. I grew Glacier last year for the first time. It's like a 3 to 4 inch, maybe 5 inch if you're pushing it, red fruit. It's a determinate variety. It's called Glacier because it's notoriously early producing and fairly frost or cold tolerant, as cold tolerant as a tomato can be. It is also a potato leaf variety. I'll link to the video where I discuss my favorite or my cold tolerant tomato varieties that I've chosen. I have hunted for them for a long period of time, and I'm really happy with the varieties that I have. Glacier produced decent last year. It didn't need a lot of support, and it was producing as some of the earliest tomatoes I got were off of the Glacier variety, so I'm excited about those guys. And they're right in the center of the bed to provide some hopeful distance between other squash varieties. Then I've got this space here for squash, and then we have the 2 purple tomatillo plants in the front of the garden bed, and another section for more squash. This is a rosemary plant. I need to find somewhere to put. That's not part of this video. It turns out I don't actually have to take that many orac or radishes out. There's a few spots where I'll definitely clear some so that the tomatoes or the tomatillos don't have any competition, but spacing wise it happened to work out pretty well. Last year I grew tomatillos for the first time, and I didn't do any sort of pruning, which was a mistake. But it was a good lesson because I got to see what they looked like if you just didn't tame them whatsoever, which, let me tell you, they're unruly. So this year I'm going to be pruning my tomatillos. Remember, friends, plant your tomatoes low. Get them deep. Take off any leaves that are going to come in contact with your soil, and then fill them in. Tomato stems have those little hairs on them, and those will actually develop into roots. That is why I'm not a huge stickler for trying to stop my tomatoes from running when I start them indoors. I obviously keep them under lights, but it's not a big of a deal as I used to think it was. Our first bed in the salad garden area is planted out, and I am thrilled. I have a course I have to get to, so that's going to be about it for this video today. But I wanted to show you quickly where I ended up planting what on our little map. Squash. We'll go this way. Squash. Eagle heart. Nope, 4 times 4. As I was saying, especially when it comes to planning, for me, visuals are super helpful. So squash in the front, and then our 2 tomatillos, another squash row. In the center, I have 2 rows taken up by glacier tomatoes, which is 4 tomato plants in total. Another row for squash. Then I have the indeterminate cherry tomatoes, both the Eagle Heart and Gardener's Delight. And then we finish the bed off with squash as well. Thank you for joining me for our morning planting session. We've got the mint in the ground, the okra in the ground, and all of our tomatillos and cherry tomatoes and glacier tomatoes out in this garden bed. Super exciting stuff. Obviously, so much more planting to do, but the sun is coming. I have a course I have to get to, so that is unfortunately all the time I have this morning. I'm actually late, so that's it, folks. May the force be with you. I'll see you all back here very shortly with another video. Bye-bye for now.